Explain to us why you blew up the entire planet." The accusation echoed through the Galactic Council chamber, its walls of polished obsidian amplifying the outrage in the alien diplomat's voice. Captain Riker Valen stood at attention, his weathered face betraying no emotion as he gazed at the sea of alien faces before him. Some were familiar allies, others hostile strangers, but all waited with bated breath for his response. "With all due respect, counselors," Steele began, his voice steady and firm, "I'll need to start from the beginning." The chamber fell silent as Steele's mind drifted back to that fateful day. The deafening roar of plasma fire tore through the air, shattering the eerie calm of Hfy's perpetual twilight. Brilliant flashes of blue and green illuminated the stark, brutalist architecture of the research facility, casting long shadows that danced across the barren landscape. The acrid smell of ozone and burning metal permeated the atmosphere, a stark contrast to the planet's usual sterile scent. Captain Riker Valen crouched behind a twisted piece of debris, his tactical visor displaying a constant stream of data. His heart pounded in his chest, adrenaline surging through his veins as he assessed the chaotic situation unfolding before him. The element of surprise had worked perfectly. The inhabitants of this secretive outpost were caught completely off guard. "Delta Team, push forward to the eastern quadrant," Valen barked into his comm. "Bravo, lay down suppressing fire on those turrets. We need to breach that security perimeter now." As if in response to his commands, a series of explosions rocked the facility's outer defenses. The night sky lit up with a dazzling display of firepower, momentarily turning darkness into day. Valen allowed himself a grim smile. His team was performing flawlessly, just as they had trained countless times for this moment. Across the battlefield, confusion reigned supreme among the facility's defenders. Dr. Oranis, a leading xenobiologist, stumbled out of his laboratory, his 4 eyes wide with terror. He had been in the middle of a delicate experiment when the first blasts shook the building's foundations. Now, as he watched his life's work crumble around him, a chilling realization dawned. This was no accident or system malfunction. "Security breach in sectors 7 through 12. A frantic voice crackled over the facility's internal comm system. "Unknown hostiles have breached the outer perimeter. All non-combat personnel evacuate immediately." Oranis's mandibles clicked nervously as he processed this information. Who would dare attack this secret installation? The Galactic Concordat had assured them that this location was secure, hidden from prying eyes. As he ran towards the emergency bunker, his mind raced through possibilities. Pirates? Rival research groups? Or perhaps... His thoughts were cut short as a figure emerged from the smoke-filled corridor ahead. Oranis froze, his exoskeleton trembling at the sight. The being before him stood on 2 legs, encased in sleek, matte black armor that seemed to absorb the very light around it. Its featureless helmet turned towards him, and Oranis felt a primal fear grip his hearts. "Target acquired," the figure spoke, its voice unnaturally calm amidst the chaos. "Non-combatant. Proceed with containment protocol." Before Oranis could react, a pulse of energy struck him square in the chest. His world went dark as he crumpled to the floor, the last image in his mind that of the implacable alien invader. Hey there, hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you do, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel to grow and reach more people. Now let's find out what comes next. Back outside, Valen vaulted over his cover, his augmented muscles propelling him forward with inhuman speed. His squad followed close behind, a well-oiled machine of destruction. They moved with a precision that spoke of years of training and combat experience, each soldier anticipating their comrades' movements perfectly. "Sir, we've breached the main research wing." Lieutenant Richard Taylor's voice crackled in Valen's ear. Encountering heavy resistance near the central data core, Valen ducked behind a pillar as a barrage of energy bolts whizzed past. "Acknowledged, Lieutenant. Hold your position. I'm sending Bravo to reinforce you." He switched channels quickly. "Bravo team, converge on Lieutenant Taylor's position. Use of heavy ordnance authorized. We need that data core intact." As he issued orders, Valen couldn't help but marvel at the efficiency of his team. Months of planning, years of training, it all came down to this moment. The stakes couldn't be higher, and failure was not an option. A sudden movement caught his eye, and Valen spun, his rifle raised. But instead of an enemy combatant, he found himself face to face with one of their alien allies. Krelax, a towering insectoid being, regarded him with compound eyes that reflected the carnage around them. "Captain," Krelax chittered, his translator struggling to convey the urgency in his voice. "This level of force, it exceeds our mission parameters." "The collateral damage!" Valen cut him off with a sharp gesture. "We stick to the plan, Krelax. You knew this wouldn't be a clean operation when you signed on." The alien's antennae twitched in what Valen had come to recognize as discomfort. "Yes, but..." Another explosion rocked the facility, showering them with debris. Valen grabbed Krelax's arm, pulling him to cover. "No time for debate. We have a job to do. You with me?" After a moment's hesitation, Krelax nodded, hefting his own exotic weapon. "I am with you, Captain. To the end." As they moved deeper into the facility, the true nature of the place began to reveal itself. What had initially appeared to be a standard research outpost now showed signs of something far more sinister. Valen's team encountered laboratories filled with strange, pulsating organic matter. Holding cells lined the corridors, some occupied by beings that defied description. "My God," whispered Corporal Harker, as they passed a room filled with suspended animation pods. What the hell were they doing here? Valen's jaw clenched. "Focus on the mission, Corporal. We're here for the package, nothing else." But even as he said the words, a knot formed in Valen's stomach. The intelligence reports hadn't prepared them for this. Whatever was happening on Hfy, it was clear that it posed a far greater threat than they had initially believed. The resistance grew fiercer as they approached the heart of the facility. Security drones swarmed the corridors, their plasma cannons leaving scorch marks on the reinforced walls. Valen's team met them head-on, their superior tactics and firepower slowly but surely gaining ground. "Captain," Krelax called out during a lull in the fighting, "I am detecting unusual energy signatures ahead. They do not match any known weapon systems in my database." Valen frowned. "Understood. All teams, be advised. Possible unknown weaponry in play. Proceed with extreme caution." As if to underscore his warning, a brilliant beam of purple energy suddenly lanced through the air, carving a molten path through the corridor. Valen barely had time to shout a warning before the beam struck one of his soldiers, Specialist Tanner. There was a brief, terrible scream, and then nothing. Where Tanner had stood, there was only a faint shimmer in the air, as if reality itself had been warped. "Fall back!" Valen roared, his training kicking in, even as shock threatened to overwhelm him. "Defensive positions now!" The team scrambled for cover as more of the deadly beams crisscrossed the hallway. Valen's mind raced, trying to formulate a plan. They couldn't go back. The mission was too important. But charging forward against an unknown weapon seemed like suicide. It was Krelax who provided the solution. The alien's multifaceted eyes had been studying the energy beams intently. "Captain," he chittered excitedly, "the weapons have a distinct firing pattern. There is a 2 7-second window between bursts. If we time our movements..." Valen nodded grimly. "You heard him, team. We move in 3-second bursts, leapfrog formation. Go!" What followed was a harrowing dance of death. The human soldiers and their alien allies advanced in short, desperate sprints, timing their movements to the deadly rhythm of the energy weapons. More than once, Valen felt the heat of a beam pass mere centimeters from his armor. Finally, they reached the source of the beams, a heavily fortified chamber bristling with alien technology. Inside, panicked technicians scrambled to recalibrate their weapons, clearly not expecting anyone to make it this far. "Breach and clear," Valen ordered. "Non-lethal takedowns if possible. We need intel." The next few minutes were a blur of concussion grenades, hand-to-hand combat, and precision shots. When the dust settled, Valen's team stood victorious, the alien defenders subdued or incapacitated. As his soldiers secured the room and began downloading data from the facility's computers, Valen took a moment to catch his breath. The adrenaline was starting to wear off, and the full weight of what they had accomplished and what they had lost began to sink in. Krelax approached, his alien features unreadable. "Captain, I must ask, did you know about this?" The extent of what was happening here? Valen met the alien's gaze steadily. No, Krelax. Our intel was incomplete. But it doesn't change our mission. If anything, it makes it more crucial than ever. The alien nodded slowly. I see. And the next phase of the operation? For a moment, Valen hesitated. The plan had always been clear: complete destruction of the facility once their primary objective was secured. But now, seeing the scale of what they had uncovered, the weight of that decision pressed down on him like a physical force. We proceed as planned, he said finally, his voice firm. Whatever was happening here, we can't risk any of it falling into the wrong hands. Prep the charges. We move out as soon as we have the package. As Krelax moved to carry out his orders, Valen turned back to the chaos of the battlefield. They were only at the beginning of this operation, and already it had exceeded all expectations. What other surprises lay in wait? And more importantly, would they be prepared to face them? With a deep breath, Valen steeled himself for what was to come. The real challenge was just beginning. The acrid smell of ozone and burnt circuitry filled the air as Captain Valen and his elite team pushed deeper into the facility. The initial shock of their assault had worn off, and now the real challenge began. Somewhere in this labyrinth of corridors and sealed chambers lay their target, a scientist whose knowledge could tip the balance of galactic power. Alpha Team, status report! Valen barked into his comm, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. Western sector secured, Captain, came the crisp reply. Heavy resistance neutralized. No sign of the package yet. Valen nodded, his augmented vision scanning the area ahead. Roger that. Continue sweep pattern Delta. Remember, we need him alive. As they moved forward, the true scope of the facility began to reveal itself. What had seemed like a standard research outpost from the outside was a sprawling complex of interconnected chambers, each more heavily fortified than the last. Lieutenant Taylor approached Valen. Sir, we've cracked their internal comms. They're in full panic mode. Seems they never expected anyone to find this place, let alone breach it. A grim smile played across Valen's features. Good. Fear makes them sloppy. Use it. With a nod, Taylor relayed a series of orders to the team. Within moments, the humans had reconfigured their tactics, exploiting gaps in the enemy's disorganized defense. Krelax, the insectoid alien ally, watched this display of adaptability with a mixture of awe and unease. Captain, he chittered, mandibles clicking nervously. The level of force being used. It exceeds anything I've seen before. Are you certain this is necessary? Valen's eyes never left the holographic display projecting from his wrist. Necessary? No. Efficient? Absolutely. He tapped a series of commands, and suddenly the facility's own security systems turned against its defenders, sealing off escape routes and herding them into kill zones. The aliens' compound eyes reflected the carnage unfolding around them. But the loss of life is regrettable. Valen cut him off, his tone brooking no argument. But every second we waste increases the chance of failure. You knew what you were signing up for, Krelax. This isn't a peacekeeping mission. As if to underscore his point, a massive explosion rocked the complex. Through the smoke and debris, a team of human soldiers emerged, their movements fluid and synchronized. They dispatched a group of alien defenders with ruthless efficiency, not a single shot wasted. Bravo team reporting in, a gruff voice crackled over the comm. We've located what looks like a central data hub. Uploading schematics now. Valen's eyes narrowed as he studied the new information. Good work, Bravo. Secure that hub and start data extraction. Priority on anything related to our package. As the team pushed forward, they encountered increasingly sophisticated defenses. Automated turrets, energy shields, and even localized gravity distortion fields stood between them and their goal. But for each obstacle, the humans had a counter. EMP grenades short-circuited electronic defenses. Specialized armor-piercing rounds punched through shields thought impenetrable. And when faced with areas of altered gravity, the team simply adjusted their tactics, using the distortions to their advantage in ways their enemies never anticipated. Throughout it all, Krelax and the other alien allies watched with growing unease. They had known humans to be resourceful, but this level of adaptability and sheer destructive potential was beyond anything they had imagined. Captain, one of the alien allies, a serpentine being named Sosrath, hissed. "We're picking up unusual energy readings from the lower levels. It doesn't match any known power source in our database." Valen's expression hardened. "Show me." A holographic display flickered to life, showing a pulsating core of energy deep beneath their feet. Its output was off the charts, fluctuating in patterns that defied conventional physics. "Well," Valen muttered, "looks like we found out why they wanted our scientists so badly." He keyed his comm. "All teams be advised. High-value target located in sub-level 5. Proceed with extreme caution. Unknown energy source in play." As they descended deeper into the facility, signs of the aliens' desperation became more evident. Hastily erected barricades blocked their path, manned by defenders armed with increasingly exotic and unstable weaponry. "They're getting sloppy," Taylor observed, as he deftly disarmed a plasma mine that would have vaporized a less observant soldier. "Using prototype weapons. Dangerous." Valen nodded grimly. "They know what's at stake. Stay alert. We're close." Suddenly, a piercing alarm cut through the air, accompanied by a computerized voice, speaking in an alien language. Krelax's translator struggled to keep up, but the message was clear enough. "Emergency protocols activated. Initiate purge sequence." "Shit!" Valen spat. "They're going to scorch the place. Move, now!" The team surged forward, all pretense of stealth abandoned. They encountered fierce resistance, but the human soldiers cut through it like a hot knife through butter. Their movements were a blur of precision and controlled violence, each action calculated for maximum effect. As they fought their way towards the energy core, Valen noticed something odd. Some of the alien defenders seemed different. Their movements were erratic, their bodies twisted in unnatural ways, and their weapons, they pulsed with the same strange energy they had detected earlier. "Captain," Krelax's voice was filled with horror. "These beings, they've been altered, fused with technology beyond anything I've seen. What have they done to themselves?" Valen's jaw clenched. "Whatever it takes to win." Sound familiar? The irony wasn't lost on him, but there was no time for reflection. They had a job to do. Finally, they reached the heart of the facility. A massive chamber opened up before them, dominated by a swirling vortex of energy. And there, suspended in a containment field at its center, was their target, the alien scientist whose knowledge had set this whole operation in motion. But between them and their goal stood a final line of defense. Alien warriors, more machine than flesh, their bodies crackling with otherworldly power. And at their center, a being that could only be described as monstrous, a fusion of organic matter and advanced technology, pulsing with the same energy that filled the room. For a moment, even Valen felt a flicker of doubt. This was beyond anything they had prepared for. But then he saw the fear in the eyes of their opponents, the desperation in their stance. And he knew, for all their power, they were afraid of what humans were capable of. "All teams, converge on my position," Valen ordered, his voice calm and determined. "Initiate Omega Protocol. Let's show them why they should be afraid." What followed was a battle that would be spoken of in hushed whispers for generations to come. The humans moved with a synchronicity that bordered on precognition, their weapons and tactics adapting on the fly to counter each new threat. Energy beams capable of disintegrating matter were deflected by hastily recalibrated shields. Gravity distortions were used to amplify the humans' own attacks. And when the monstrous leader unleashed a wave of power that should have annihilated everything in its path, the humans simply endured. Their armor smoldering, their bodies pushed to the limit, they pressed on. Through it all, Krelax and the other alien allies could only watch in awe and terror. This wasn't just combat, it was evolution in real time, humanity pushing itself to new limits in the crucible of battle. Finally, with a thunderous crash, the last defender fell. The chamber fell silent, save for the humming of the energy vortex and the labored breathing of the human soldiers. Valen approached the containment field, his armor scarred and smoking, but his stride unwavering. With a few deft commands, the field dissipated, and the alien scientist slumped into his arms. "Package secured," Valen announced, his voice betraying no emotion. "Initiate extraction protocol." As the team began to withdraw, Krelax approached Valen, his alien features unreadable. "Captain, what I've seen here today, I don't know if the galaxy is ready for it." Valen met the alien's gaze steadily. "That's the point, Krelax. They never were." As they made their way back through the devastated facility, signs of the humans' passage were everywhere. Walls reduced to molten slag, defensive systems turned to scrap, and the bodies of defenders who had never stood a chance. But there was something else, too. Subtle devices left behind, their purpose unclear. Valen caught Krelax eyeing one curiously. "Standard procedure," Valen explained, his tone casual. "Data retrieval and site security. Nothing to worry about." Krelax nodded, but doubt gnawed at him. There was more to this mission than he had been told, that much was clear. But as he looked at the implacable human soldiers around him, he knew better than to press the issue. As they reached the extraction point, alarms began to blare once more. The facility's systems, pushed beyond their limits, were beginning to fail catastrophically. Energy surges raced through the corridors, and the very air seemed to crackle with potential. "Double time, people," Valen barked. "Our ride's here, and I don't plan on staying for the fireworks." They sprinted the final stretch, the rescued scientist cradled carefully in Valen's arms. Behind them, the first explosions began to rock the complex. Whether from the facility's meltdown or something more deliberate, Krelax couldn't be sure. As they boarded the waiting dropship, Valen took one last look at the chaos they were leaving behind. The mission had been a success, but at what cost? The knowledge they had gained, the power they now held, it was enough to reshape the galaxy. And as the engines roared to life, drowning out the sound of the facility's death throes, Valen couldn't help but wonder if they had just lit the fuse on something far bigger than they could have ever imagined. The dropship soared into the star-studded sky, leaving behind a world on the brink of destruction. But for Captain Valen and his team, this was just the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead, harnessing the knowledge they had fought so hard to obtain and preparing for the storm that was sure to follow. As they broke atmosphere, Valen's gaze fell upon the alien scientist, now sedated and secure. The mission was over, but the war was just beginning. The dropship's engines roared as it cut through the planet's upper atmosphere, leaving behind a trail of superheated air. Inside, the tension was palpable. Captain Valen stood at the center of the cargo bay, his face an unreadable mask as he surveyed his team and their precious cargo. The sedated alien scientist. "All right, people." Valen's voice cut through the ambient noise. "Phase 1 complete. Initiate Phase 2. At his words, several members of the human contingent sprang into action. They moved with practiced efficiency, retrieving specialized equipment from hidden compartments throughout the ship. To the untrained eye, it might have looked like standard post-mission procedures. But there was an underlying urgency to their movements, a sense of purpose that spoke of something far more significant. Krelax, the insectoid alien ally, chittered nervously as he observed the flurry of activity. His compound eyes darted from one human to another, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. "Captain," he ventured, his translator struggling to convey the mix of confusion and concern in his voice. "What is the meaning of this? Our mission was to extract the scientist. Why are we not returning to base?" Valen's gaze locked onto Krelax, his eyes hard and unyielding. "The mission isn't over, old friend. There's more at stake here than you know." As if on cue, Lieutenant Taylor approached, carrying what appeared to be a standard data pad. But as he activated it, a holographic display sprang to life, showing a three-dimensional map of the planet below. Pulsing red dots appeared at strategic points across the surface. "Sir," Taylor reported, his voice crisp and professional. "The devices are in place and awaiting activation. We have a 2-hour window before the enemy's systems come back online." Valen nodded, a grim satisfaction evident in his posture. "Excellent work, Lieutenant. Begin the countdown." The alien members of the team exchanged worried glances. Sus wrath. A reptilian creature with iridescent scales slithered forward. Devices? Countdown? Captain Valen, please explain. This was not part of our briefing. But Valen had already turned away, focusing on the holographic display. With a series of rapid gestures, he zoomed in on specific locations, each corresponding to one of the pulsing red dots. As the image resolved, it became clear that these were not random points. They were critical infrastructure, military installations, and what appeared to be massive power generation facilities. Realization dawned on Krelax and Esisrath simultaneously. Their alien physiologies might have been different, but the horror in their eyes was unmistakable. "By the cosmic void," Sisrath hissed, his scales flattening in distress. "You intend to destroy the entire planet." The accusation hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. For a moment, even some of the human team members seemed to flinch, the weight of their actions finally sinking in. Valen turned slowly, his face a study in controlled emotion. "We're not destroying a planet," he said, his voice low and intense. "We're eliminating a threat that, if left unchecked, could lead to the annihilation of countless worlds, including our own." He gestured to the sedated scientist. The knowledge locked away in that mind. It's not just valuable, it's apocalyptic. The beings who run this world were willing to tear apart the fabric of reality itself to get their hands on it. And they came damn close to succeeding. As if to underscore his point, the holographic display shifted, showing images captured during their mission. Twisted creatures, more machine than flesh, weapons that defied the laws of physics, and at the center of it all, a swirling vortex of energy that seemed to hunger for the very essence of existence. "What we saw down there," Valen continued, his voice gaining intensity, "was just the beginning. Given time, they would perfect their techniques. And then nothing in this galaxy would be safe." The alien team members recoiled at the images, their earlier bravado replaced by a dawning terror. But it was clear from their expressions that they were still struggling to reconcile the magnitude of the humans' response. Krelax's antennae quivered as he spoke. "But an entire world? Surely there must be another way. The loss of life will be a fraction of what we'd face if we let this continue." Valen cut him off, his tone brooking no argument. "Every second we delay puts more worlds at risk. This isn't about one planet. It's about safeguarding the future of all sentient life." As the implications of Valen's words sank in, the atmosphere in the dropship grew heavy with the weight of what was to come. Even some of the human team members, hardened veterans all, showed signs of unease. Corporal Harker, the youngest of the group, visibly paled as he stared at the holographic representation of the doomed world. Valen noticed. His expression softened almost imperceptibly as he approached the young soldier. "It's not easy, son. It's not supposed to be. But sometimes, the hardest choices are the ones we have to make to protect everything we hold dear." Harker nodded, swallowing hard. "I understand, sir. It's just the scale of it. Are we really qualified to make this kind of decision?" The question hung in the air, giving voice to the doubts that had been gnawing at the edges of everyone's consciousness. Valen let the silence linger for a moment before responding. "Qualified? Maybe not. But we're the ones here. We're the ones who've seen what they're capable of. And we're the ones who have to live with the consequences of our actions. Or our inaction." As if to punctuate his words, a series of alarms began to blare throughout the ship. Lieutenant Taylor's fingers flew across his console, his face grim. "Sir, we've got incoming. Looks like they've managed to get some of their defense systems back online faster than we anticipated." Valen's expression hardened once more. "Time to make a choice, people. We either finish what we started, or we doom countless worlds to a fate worse than death." The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. For a moment, it seemed as if the team might fracture under the weight of the decision before them. But then, one by one, they began to nod. Even Krelax and Sesrath, their alien features contorted with a mix of resignation and determination, gave their assent. "All right," Valen said, his voice steady. "Let's do this by the numbers. Taylor, initiate the final countdown sequence. Harker, I want you on point defense. Nothing gets close to this ship. The rest of you, prepare for potential boarders. If they realize what we're doing, they'll throw everything they have at us." As the team sprang into action, the dropship shuddered under the impact of the first volley of enemy fire. Through the viewports, streaks of energy lit up the sky as the planet's defenses came to life, desperately trying to ward off the impending doom. Valen stood at the center of it all, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. The pulsing red dots that represented their planted devices had begun to glow brighter, counting down to the moment of truth. In that instant, as the fate of an entire world hung in the balance, the true weight of human determination was laid bare. It wasn't just about superior firepower or advanced tactics. It was about the willingness to make the hard choices, to bear burdens that would break lesser species. As the first of the devices detonated, sending a shockwave visible even from orbit, Valen's voice cut through the chaos. "Remember why we're here. Remember what's at stake. And may whatever gods you believe in have mercy on our souls." The planet below began to break apart, fissures of blinding energy racing across its surface. The dropship rocked violently as it fought to escape the growing maelstrom. And through it all, the human team worked with grim efficiency, their actions a testament to the terrible responsibility they had shouldered. In the face of a threat beyond imagination, humanity had chosen to become the monster that monsters feared. The galaxy would never be the same. And as the light of a dying world filled the viewports, one thing became crystal clear. In the vast, uncaring expanse of space, it was not the meek who would inherit the stars, but those with the will to do whatever it took to survive. The true test, perhaps, would come in the aftermath. Could they live with what they had done? Could they justify it to themselves, to their allies, to the countless civilizations that would hear of this day? As the dropship rocketed away from the disintegrating planet, those questions hung in the air, unanswered and perhaps unanswerable. But for now, in this moment, they had made their choice. They had become the very thing they had set out to stop, a force capable of destroying worlds. And in doing so, they had sent a message to the galaxy at large. Beware the humans, for they will go to any lengths to protect what they hold dear, even if it means becoming the very monsters they seek to defeat. The dropship's engines roared to life, their pitch rising to a deafening crescendo as Captain Valen barked out his final orders. "All systems go! Initiate emergency launch sequence!" The vessel shuddered violently as it broke free from the planet's gravitational pull, artificial gravity systems struggling to compensate. Through the viewports, the world below them began to change. What had once been a mix of blues, greens, and swirling cloud patterns was now marred by angry red fissures spreading across its surface like cracks in a fragile eggshell. "Sir, planetary defense systems are coming back online. We've got multiple bogies on an intercept course," Taylor said. Valen's jaw clenched, his eyes never leaving the tactical display. "Harker, weapons hot. Take out anything that gets within range. We are not letting them stop us now." As if on cue, the first volley of enemy fire streaked past the dropship, a barrage of energy beams that lit up the void of space. Harker responded in kind, the ship's point defense systems unleashing a storm of counterfire that turned the sky into a deadly light show. Krelax chittered nervously, his compound eyes reflecting the chaos unfolding around them. "By the cosmic void, they're throwing everything they have at us." Valen's voice was steel. "And it won't be enough. Taylor, status on the detonation sequence." "Countdown initiated, sir. T-5 minutes to full planetary destabilization." The dropship rocked violently as an enemy shot found its mark, alarms blaring throughout the vessel. Susrath hissed in alarm, his scales flattening against his body. "We cannot sustain this level of assault." But the humans seemed to thrive in the chaos. Their movements became even more precise, their reactions faster than should have been possible. It was as if the very act of facing annihilation had unlocked some primal, unstoppable force within them. Harker's voice cut through the cacophony. "Sir, multiple enemy vessels attempting to flee the planet's surface." Valen's eyes narrowed. "Can't let them escape. They might have data on the scientist or the research. Take them out. All of them." The young soldier hesitated for a split second, the weight of the order visible in his eyes. But then his training kicked in, and he nodded sharply. "Aye, sir. Engaging targets." What followed was a display of firepower that left even the battle-hardened alien allies in awe. The dropship's weapons systems, far more advanced than anything their size should have allowed, lit up the sky with pinpoint accuracy. Enemy vessels, some barely off the ground, others already breaching the upper atmosphere, were systematically reduced to space debris. Taylor's voice, usually so controlled, held a note of disbelief. "Sir, we're actually doing it. Enemy fleet is down to 20% and falling rapidly." But Valen's attention was already elsewhere. The tactical display showed the countdown timer ticking relentlessly towards 0, each second bringing them closer to the point of no return. "All hands brace for shockwave," he bellowed. "This is going to get rough." The first detonation came without warning. A blinding flash of light erupted from the planet's surface, so intense that even the dropship's automatic filters couldn't fully compensate. The vessel bucked wildly, tossed about like a leaf in a hurricane as the fabric of space itself seemed to ripple around them. And then, as if in slow motion, the planet began to tear itself apart. Massive chunks of the crust broke free, revealing a molten core that burned with an otherworldly intensity. The atmosphere ignited, creating a firestorm that engulfed everything in its path. It was destruction on a scale that defied comprehension, a cataclysm that would reshape the very star system. In the dropship, an eerie silence fell over the crew. Human and alien alike stood transfixed, unable to look away from the apocalypse unfolding before them. The weight of what they had done, of the line they had crossed, hung heavy in the air. Krelax's antennae drooped, his usual energy replaced by a bone-deep weariness. It's gone. An entire world, just gone. Serath, his scales now a dull, muted color, could only nod in agreement. The reptilian alien's eyes, usually so fierce and proud, now held a haunted look that spoke volumes. Even the human crew members, for all their determination and resolve, showed signs of the toll this mission had taken. Harker's hands trembled slightly as he powered down the weapon systems. Taylor's usually impeccable posture had given way to a slight slump, the weight of his actions visible in every line of his body. And Valen... The captain stood ramrod straight, his face an impassive mask. But those who knew him best could see the storm raging behind his eyes, the calculations and justifications warring with the enormity of what they had just done. As the last remnants of the planet burned away, leaving nothing but a debris field where a world had once been, Valen finally broke the silence. "Set course for Rendezvous Point Alpha. We're not out of this yet." His words seemed to break the spell that had fallen over the crew. They returned to their stations with a mechanical efficiency, their training kicking in to fill the void left by shock and disbelief. The dropship accelerated away from the devastation, its engines pushing to their limits. But even as they fled, the consequences of their actions began to manifest. The destruction of the planet had sent ripples through space-time itself, creating gravitational anomalies and energy distortions that threatened to tear their ship apart. "Navigational systems are going haywire," Taylor reported, his fingers flying over the console. "The destruction is causing massive spatial distortions. We're flying blind." Valen's response was immediate. "Switch to manual control. Harker, I need you on point defense again. If so much as a pebble hits us at these speeds, we're done for." What followed was a masterclass in piloting and teamwork. The human crew worked in perfect synchronization, anticipating each other's needs and reacting to threats before they fully materialized. It was a dance on the razor's edge of destruction, with the slightest mistake promising instant annihilation. Through it all, the alien allies could only watch in a mixture of awe and terror. The sheer skill and determination on display were beyond anything they had ever witnessed. It was a stark reminder of why humans were both feared and respected throughout the galaxy. As they finally broke free of the chaos, emerging into the relative calm of deep space, a collective exhale seemed to pass through the ship. They had done it. Against all odds, they had completed their mission and survived. But survival came at a cost. The weight of their actions hung heavy in the air, an unspoken burden that each of them would carry for the rest of their lives. They had crossed a line, one that could never be uncrossed. Valen's voice, when he finally spoke, was quiet, but filled with resolve. "Set course for home. We've got a lot to answer for." As the dropship accelerated towards its final destination, the crew settled into an uneasy silence. The adrenaline of battle faded, replaced by the cold reality of what they had done. An entire world gone. Captain Steele's words hung in the air, their weight palpable in the now silent council chamber. The alien faces before him were a mix of horror, disbelief, and barely contained fury. Steele's eyes, hard as steel, swept across the chamber. "I stand here ready to face the consequences of my actions, but not to apologize for protecting the galaxy from a threat beyond your comprehension." A murmur rippled through the assembled diplomats. The human's audacity was as terrifying as it was awe-inspiring. As the council erupted into chaos, Steele's mind drifted back to that final moment on the dropship. The justifications, the strategic necessities, the greater good, all of it seemed hollow in the face of such monumental destruction. And yet, as they looked at the sedated alien scientist, at the data drives containing information that could reshape the galaxy, a grim certainty settled over them. They would do it again if they had to. Hey there again. I'm glad you've come so far. Hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to hit the like button and the subscribe button. This is really important to the channel. Really important. And I have one more thing for you. I've chosen another video for you to watch. Just click the card here, or here if you want the whole playlist. See you there.